So in this video, we'll be discussing the topic of motive concerning the case of Lucy Letby, and in particular, the green post-it note where Lucy wrote the following: "I killed them on purpose because I'm not good enough to care for them." We're going to take a look at this note in particular and how I believe the real meaning behind this sentence is demonstrated in the case of Child C. So let me give you a little bit of background concerning the case of Child C. Now, bearing in mind at this point in time we've had the attacks on Child A and Child B, and on the night that Child C was attacked, this baby was being looked after by a different nurse, which is Sophie Ellis, in room 1. And basically, the room system works like this. In room 1, you'd have the sickest babies, this was the intensive care room, and in room 4, you'd have the least severe cases. So you've got the sickest babies in room 1, the least sick babies in room 4. And Lucy Letby was designated to look after a baby in room 3 on the night that Child C died. So you've got Sophie Ellis, a band 5 nurse who was not intensive care trained, looking after this baby in the intensive care room in room 1. Now, Sophie Ellis was being overshadowed or overlooked by another senior member of staff that night, so she wasn't exactly left on her own to her own devices, shall we say. She was being looked after by a senior member of staff. But the fact that Sophie Ellis was in room 1 really angered Lucy Letby. And she even had to admit this in court to some degree. She said, yes, I was upset. I did want to be in room 1. And I was upset that my feelings weren't being taken into consideration. So what we're going to do now is take a look back at a text message exchange. This gives us a bit more detail, a bit more of a window into the mind of Lucy Letby during the night that Child C collapsed and died. Take a listen to the following text exchange. This is with Jennifer Jones-Key, a colleague of Lucy Letby. Letby had sent a message to Jennifer Jones-Key saying, "I just keep thinking about Monday. Feel I need to be in room 1 to overcome it, but colleagues said no." Jennifer Jones-Key replied, "I agree with her. I don't think it will help. You need a break from full-on ITU. You have to let it go or it will eat you up. I know not easy and will take time." Letby replied, "Not the vented baby necessarily. I just feel I need to be in room 1 to get the image out of my head. Mella said the same and colleague let her go. Being in 3 is eating me up. All I can see is him in room 1. It probably sounds odd, but it's how I feel." Jennifer Jones-Key replied, "Well, it's up to you, but I don't think it's going to help. It sounds very odd. I would be complete opposite. Can understand colleague, she's trying to look after you all." Letby replied, "Well, that's how I feel. From when I've experienced it at a women's hospital, I've needed to go straight back and have a sick baby. Otherwise, the image of the one you lost never goes. Why send Mel in if she's trying to look after us? She was in bits over it. I don't expect people to understand, but I know how I feel and how I've dealt with it before. I've voiced that, so can't do any more, but people should respect that." Now, what Lucy Letby is referring to here is the baby that was lost, so baby A who she's attacked, who she's killed. She's now saying, "I want to be back in room 1. Why is she getting the privilege and I'm stuck here in room 3? A key word here. Being in room 3 is eating me up. All I can see is him in room 1. Now, many people say, well, maybe this was just the way that she processed things. Maybe she did need that exposure, the repeated exposure, in order to get over the loss of baby A. But what I feel this all comes down to is Lucy Letby and how she is perceived by other individuals. I'm not good enough. I'm in room 3. Why is this less qualified nurse in room 1 looking after Child C? Why am I in room 3? I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough to care for them. And this takes a more sinister turn when combined with her green post-it note. Because she writes here on this note, "I killed them on purpose because I'm not good enough to care for them. And I am a horrible, evil person." Now, Lucy Letby will have you believe that this is how the situation made her feel. This is her self-reflecting on, am I really a good nurse? Am I really a good individual? Did I do my best? Have I made mistakes here? But for me, these are the ramblings of a spiteful, jealous individual. And I'll explain to you why. Bearing in mind, Lucy Letby, the more experienced nurse on that evening, is put into room 3 with the less sick children. Sophie Ellis, the lesser experienced nurse, is in the thick of it, looking after child C. You've got Lucy Letby complaining, moaning, whining, whinging to her friend. I want to be in room 1. Why is Sophie Ellis in room 1? I've asked to be in room 1. I've been told I've got to stay in room 3. What's going on with that? Why have they let Sophie Ellis look after the child in room 1? I want to be in there. I want to be in there. Why is she in there? She hasn't even got the skill. She hasn't even got the experience. I mean, even in court, Lucy Letby said, I don't feel that Sophie Ellis had the experience to be in room 1. She shouldn't have been looking after that baby. This is why all this has happened, because she's not experienced enough. These were the actions of someone who was jealous and spiteful. Bearing in mind that 6 minutes, just 6 minutes after the text exchange with Jennifer Jones-Key, child C collapses. Sophie Ellis leaves the room for a matter of minutes. She's alerted by child C's alarm going off. She walks back into the room, and lo and behold, standing by the incubator is none other than Lucy Letby. Now, this wasn't an isolated incident with Jennifer Jones-Key and Lucy Letby complaining about being in a different room. As I say, this happened on a number of occasions, to a point where Nicholas Johnson actually said to Lucy Letby, were you bored? Were you bored? And Lucy Letby said, oh, I would never describe my work as boring. And yet they then produced text messages where Lucy Letby said, yeah, I'm bored at work. I don't want to be feeding children. I want to be in nursery room 1. So it clearly had some kind of effect on Lucy Letby. Now let's just take a look at what Lucy Letby actually achieved before these attacks began. Now the judge mentioned during his summing up that in March-April 2015, Letby had completed a 6-month course, including a placement at Liverpool Women's Hospital, where she qualified in the speciality of caring for intensive care babies. She was the only Band 5 nurse, along with colleague Bernadette Butterworth, to have that qualification. So although Sophie Ellis, who was looking after child C in room 1, was a Band 5 nurse, she hadn't got that extra qualification in which she qualified specifically in caring for intensive care babies. So bearing in mind, a few months prior to these attacks taking place, Lucy Letby's just done a 6-month course between March and April 2015, or ended in March-April 2015, where Lucy Letby became qualified specifically to care for intensive care babies. Now again, you can look at this in one of two ways. Either this was the intent the whole time, okay, I want these qualifications, I want access to room 1, I want access to these children as often as possible, or this was simply someone who thought to themselves, why am I being relegated or demoted into these outer rooms when I have a qualification that no one else has? Only me and Bernadette Butterworth have this qualification, yet for some reason I'm being demoted. I'm being punished here. And I do feel that this has specific meaning, particularly in the case of child C. Now, Nicholas Johnson, the prosecuting barrister, mentioned this on a couple of occasions in court. He said, well, many of your colleagues have mentioned during this trial that when these collapses and these tragic events happened, that you were actually quite cool, quite calm, quite unaffected. And Lucy Letby said, well, yes, but it's my professional role. You know, I put my professional hat on and, you know, I just get on with it. It's just my professional role. But when you look at this from the angle of, okay, I'm stuck in room 3 and 4. I don't want to be here. I don't believe that Nurse Sophie Ellis should be looking after child C in the intensive care room. So if I harm child C, I'll show them that I should be in there. Because we all know what happens next, don't we? Again, this is the part where Lucy Letby controls the narrative here. Because if she harms child C, she knows that either X, Y, or Z is going to happen. That she's going to harm the child's going to decline, and it's going to most likely end in the efforts of resuscitation. So it's not surprising that when Lucy Letby, the hero of the day, arrives into room 1, that she's very cool, very calm and very collected. Yet her other nurses, or some of her other nurse colleagues, actually stepped outside. They couldn't understand what was going on. This was a shock. How has this baby declined so fast? What is going on? They're sort of emotionally overwhelmed. Whereas Lucy Letby appears to be the complete opposite, because she knows what's going to happen. It's that element of, I know what's going to happen, and I can then take control of this situation. You're not going to be putting me in room 3 and 4 thinking that I'm not good enough to care. I should be in there. I should be in there in the first place looking after this child. Because now you're going to rely on me for the resuscitation efforts. But it doesn't bother Lucy, does it? Because she knows that's going to happen. That's all part of the storyline. And it's so strange when you think about this. How someone could actually behave like that just because she's been put into, I guess, a less demanding role, or into a role where she's not caring for the sickest children. She thinks to herself, I'll show you. I'll show you why that nurse shouldn't be looking after child C in room 1. I'll go in there and I'll cause something to happen to child C, which then will leave me to come and save the day. I mean, it's ridiculous, isn't it, when you think about it, how that could, I should say, not the word must, how that could have actually gone on in Lucy Letby's own mind. Very, very strange. Because what we do know, as I say, is that Lucy Letby is the cool, calm and collected individual. Because she knows what's happened. She knows what's wrong with the child because she caused it. There's no reason for Lucy Letby to feel anxious. No need for Lucy Letby to feel flustered. No need for Lucy Letby to feel scared of what's going on. Or even worried. Because she knows what's happened. She has caused the very events which then happen next. It's just bizarre, isn't it, to think that someone could actually do that. Again, one more time, the green post-it note. I don't deserve to live. I killed them on purpose because I'm not good enough to care for them. If she's actually true to herself, she will say, that's how it made me feel having to work in those other rooms. That's how it made her feel. That I'm not good enough. We all know that Lucy Letby, the perception that people have of Lucy Letby is very, very important to Lucy Letby. Very, very important. I think she had a very, very fragile sense of self. And what I mean by that is that if this situation, the fact that she's been taken out of room 1 or she's not allowed to do something, she immediately takes that very personally. And she's even complaining, as demonstrated in those text messages to her friend, it's eating me up. Eating me up being in room 3. Just because you can't go in room 1. Just because you can't get your own way. Really? Absolute insanity. I killed them on purpose because I'm not good enough to care for them. I am a horrible, evil person. Those bits are true, aren't they? I'm not good enough. I killed them on purpose because I'm not good enough to care for them. Like I say, I read that as almost, you don't think I'm good enough, I'll show you. Almost like revenge in a weird sort of way. Very, very odd. Now, one thing that I did learn, having spent some time in court with Lucy Letby and following the trial as closely as I did, is that in my opinion, and again, just my opinion here, Lucy Letby loves to control the perception that other people have of her. So what do I mean by that? Let's take this situation for example. If they feel, as in her superiors, that there's someone better qualified, someone better for the job, who should be in room 1 looking after child C, or maybe someone who needs the experience. Any sort of reason at all. Fill in the blank. And Lucy Letby gets cast aside. She feels the need to change that person's perception of her. Maybe that manager, maybe that shift leader, maybe her other individual who had to leave the room because she was overwhelmed. She's desperate to manipulate and control the perception that other people have over her. Again, another example of this would be the texting at work. A very minor example, but something where Lucy Letby just would not shift. She wouldn't shift from this because she couldn't face other people having a slightly different opinion of her. Do you use your phone at work, Lucy? No. I certainly would never use it in a clinical area. Well, that's strange, Lucy, isn't it? Because we've got these forms here and you're texting your friends between 10:30 and 10:40 here. You've got these social text messages, but then at 10:32 you signed for a feed for this child. So did you feed the baby? Well, yeah. Well, how could you have fed the baby though, Lucy? Because you were using your phone. Well, yeah, I would have been stood at the doorway. Oh, right. But you just said you don't use your phone in clinical areas. Oh, I in the end, once she's cornered into a point where there is literally no return, and I mean that, she won't accept anything or agree with anything when she's lying or admit that she's lying in any way, shape or form unless she's completely backed into a corner with absolutely no return. And at that point she said, I use my phone, I text regardless of where I am on shift. So Nicholas Johnson, the prosecuting barrister, said to Lucy, what, you would even text in nursery room 1, in the ITU room? And Lucy said, yes, I use my phone regardless of where I am on shift. And so does everybody else. Everybody else does it as well. And they would say the same if they were being honest. So instead of just actually saying, yeah, look, bit of an oversight here, I do use my phone. She then says, yeah, I do it, and so does everybody else. So, I'm not a special case here. I'm not a bad individual. So that's just one example, isn't it? The text messaging. But this extends further. This idea that I have to control others' perception of me. I'm pulling the strings. I'm the puppet master here of other people's thoughts and feelings on who I am. Now this extended to the arrest of Lucy Letby. And again, this was proven in court for these people now to say, I mean, this is how ridiculous some people are. I've even seen some forum posts online saying there was a culture of jealousy of Lucy Letby. That these individuals, these doctors and colleagues were jealous of Lucy. I mean, it's unbelievable. There's some of the stuff that people write. Anyway, let's not get sidetracked. Another example of Lucy Letby's desire to control others' perception of her came in the form of the arrest. Now, on May of this year, she told the jury, I was arrested on the first occasion in 2018. When the police came to my door, they took me away in my pyjamas. It was a traumatizing arrest. It has left me now suffering with PTSD and I need to take medication due to my traumatizing arrest. The picture that she was trying to portray about this arrest was that she'd been led away in her, I won't say underwear, but let's just say pyjamas, for instance. And Nicholas Johnson said, so would you like to see the videos of your arrests? No. That was Lucy's response. No, I don't want to see them. And Nicholas Johnson proved to the jury that Lucy Letby had lied about that detail. That she wasn't arrested in her pyjamas. She was arrested in a blue Lee Cooper leisure suit, as Mr. Johnson eloquently puts it, and a pair of tracksuit bottoms. So she wasn't led away in her underwear. She wasn't led away in her pyjamas. Now, what makes me laugh about this is that some people even say, well, what's the difference between a Lee Cooper hoodie and Lee Cooper bottoms and pyjamas? Well, hang on a minute. If there's no difference to Lucy Letby, why didn't she just say, that's what I wear to bed? That they are my pyjamas. She didn't say that. She actually admitted that she lied. He said, why have you told the jury this lie? She said, no, actually, first of all, she still tried to maintain her frame for a second, actually. I've just remembered this. So he said, well, why did you tell the jury that you were arrested in your pyjamas? And she said, well, because that's what happened on the first time. That's how quick it all happened. And bearing in mind, he's already gone through arrests 1, 2 and 3 at this point. And he's established that Lucy Letby was not wearing her pyjamas. She was wearing a blue Lee Cooper tracksuit, on the second occasion, and a pink, I don't know if it was a Lee Cooper, but a pink leisure suit on the third arrest, with a dressing gown over the top. And even then, the little voice inside Lucy Letby's head was saying, no, you can get out of this. You can get out of this. You can get out of this. And he said, why have you told the jury this lie? And she said, well, that's what happened on the first occasion. That's how quickly it all happened. He said, no. On the first arrest, you were arrested in your blue Lee Cooper leisure suit. Do you want to watch the video? And then she just went completely silent. And his next words to her were, you're a very calculating woman, aren't you, Lucy Letby? And I genuinely believe she is. She loves to control others' perception of her, to hide who she really is. So let's just think about why she did that. It was to provide the jury with an image of this poor, hard done by, persecuted individual who was pulled out of her house with her dad in attendance, led away in her pyjamas. Do you not see? Do you not see what she's doing there? She's creating a story for the jury which was completely untrue. Playing the victim, I guess you could say it's that. It's portraying a situation to be a lot worse on her situation. I was pulled out of bed, I was taken away in my pyjamas, I'm on medication, this, that and the other. It's a self-serving statement, isn't it? To make the jury believe that something else happened. Change their perception of who Lucy Letby actually is. And again, this goes back to the social life. Many people say, well, who cares? She went out for a few drinks when she was suspended and she was under investigation. Why not? This, that and the other. That's not important. I couldn't give a toss if Lucy Letby went out 7 days a week. It's what she told the jury. And you've got to look a little bit deeper here and think to yourself, why would she lie about that? Why would she lie? In her statement, which was in her defence statement, which was again, I think this was back in May again, which was handed to the jury. She told her defence barrister on the stand that I wasn't allowed to contact anybody. I was taken away from the job that I loved. I wasn't allowed to speak to anybody on the unit apart from 3 individuals, Dr. A and 2 other colleagues that worked on the unit. Other than that, I was to speak to no one. I was banned from speaking to other people. I was banned from socialising with them. I couldn't speak to them. I was isolated. I was alone. I'd lost everything. Now, my family, as she called them on the unit, had been taken away from me. And then they produced Lucy Letby's social life document, the 26, 27-page document that I covered briefly in the last video I did. And it showed that Lucy Letby had constant contact with people from the unit. She spoke to many other individuals on the unit. She was going out with them, drinking, socialising, partying, days out to the races, restaurants, shopping trips, a night away with a married man to London. Ask yourself again, why would she lie about that? My opinion is because she's giving the jury this impression, isn't she? She's forming impressions about her. She's desperate to pull the strings on how other people perceive her. I want the jury to believe I'm this downtrodden, hard done by, persecuted victim. That's the story she's trying to tell. And it didn't work. It didn't work at all. She actually fell flat on her face. Because then Nicholas Johnson said, why did you tell the jury these lies? You were telling the jury a sob story, weren't you? That's what he said to her. And she said no. And the funniest part, again, I mean, if there is a funny part in this, but the funniest part of this was when Nicholas Johnson said, well, I've got a document here, 26, 27 pages, which disproves everything that you have told this jury. I disagree with that. Again, she doesn't give it up. She won't give it up until there is nowhere left to turn. Even then, even though Lucy Letby knew, this is the craziness of it. Lucy Letby had 30 minutes with this document, right? This social document about her social life. It had all the text messages, photographs of her nights out, this, that and the other. Lucy Letby had read this 30 minutes ago. So she knew what the prosecution knew. She knew what the prosecution were going to ask her. And yet when Nicholas Johnson said to her, well, in this document, it completely disproves everything that you've told this jury. She said, no, I disagree. He said, you disagree? He said, if that's the case, we're going to need to go into into this document and take, Even at that point, having read the document 40 minutes earlier, she still denied it. She cannot face having other people's opinion or other people actually seeing the truth of a situation. And that really got to her. Bearing in mind, that was her last day of cross-examination. So for anybody to say that this is just some poor nurse, this is just some poor individual who's been stitched up by the hospital, it's all some kind of conspiracy. Take a look at the finer details and what they actually say about Lucy Letby, the individual. Now, in this case concerning the word motive, many people have said, well, is this simply about attention? Is it simply about sympathy, seeking sympathy, wanting to be seen as this hero who rescues and resuscitates these children, saves these children? Or was it due to the fact that she wanted the attention of Dr. A? Now, let's just touch upon that very briefly. Many people are, I guess, unaware that Dr. A wasn't even working at the Countess of Chester Hospital when these attacks started. But what I feel in this case regarding Lucy Letby is that her motive evolved over time. It may have been that some attacks were carried out to gain attention. Maybe some attacks were carried out due to requiring sympathy or looking for sympathy or wanting to be hailed as a hero. But some of these cases actually, in my opinion, demonstrate a very hardened, sadistic edge. It wasn't just about causing as least harm to these children as possible and then trying to save them afterwards. No. That's not reflected in this case. I feel the longer that this went on, the more Lucy Letby got from it, in terms of getting close to the families. Okay, on this occasion, this family member said something to me, I'm going to show them, I'm going to get them back. I mean, we even had that, didn't we, with the case of Child D, I believe it was, where Lucy Letby was in the room and she was fiddling about with a clipboard and the mother said, look, can you just leave us alone? Like, we just want some privacy. And then that night, what did Lucy Letby do? She attacked Child D. So even just saying to Lucy Letby, even maybe being a bit sharp to Lucy Letby, or however Lucy Letby would, take that herself, whether she felt that the parents were being rude to her or whatever, she took that personally. And then she attacked Child D. Again, in terms of a hardened sadistic edge, look at Child G, for instance. Attacked on its 100th day of life. Again, you could say, is that because the focus is on someone else during that time period? Did she not like the fact that all eyes were on this baby? Its 100th day of life. All it's gone through up till this point, this child was still alive and celebrating its 100th day. Banners made, a cake baked, focus taken away from Lucy Letby. We don't like that, do we, Lucy? We don't like that at all. And then in the case, finally, as I say, of Child C, when the focus is on Nurse Sophie Ellis, who is given the privilege of being in room 1 that evening, and Lucy Letby not liking that at all. When Lucy Letby's pushed into the background, she doesn't like that. She doesn't like that at all. Because what did she do, in my opinion? She took an opportunity when Sophie Ellis was out of the room for a couple of minutes to go in and sabotage and kill Child C. All because Lucy was put in rooms 3 and 4. She didn't like that. She had to be the front and centre, the focus, the focal point of attention. But I feel, as I say, Lucy got a lot out of these attacks. It filled a number of voids, I feel, for Lucy Letby. And it's very difficult to pinpoint one specific motivating factor. Again, for one last time, what I believe may play into the case of Child C is where she writes the following there. I killed them on purpose because I'm not good enough to care for them. And I am a horrible, evil person. That's how she took this rejection. Even though it's not a rejection, it's just being placed in a different room to work that night. But she perceived that, in my opinion, as a rejection. It's eating me up being in room 3. 6 minutes after that conversation ends, Child C is attacked. And then she writes, I killed them on purpose because I'm not good enough to care for them. That's what they thought of her. That's what was going on in her mind when she wrote that. I killed them because you made me feel like I wasn't good enough to look after them. And I showed you. I committed this attack on Child C, and then I took over the resuscitation because the other members of staff couldn't cope. I had to put myself front and centre again. I had to show my value to my colleagues again. Anyway, do leave your own thoughts and theories down in the comments section below. Do you agree or disagree with what I've said there regarding this green post-it note? Do you believe that this was simply just a nurse who was dealing with a great deal of anguish at the time and this is how other people had made her feel in an innocent sense? Or do you detect an element of spite here with the I killed them on purpose because I'm not good enough to care for them? Do you feel you're looking at here someone who was a fairly jealous and spiteful individual? Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below.